Let me tell you a story about a girl, and that girl is me. And there was a day when I was praying, Lord, break me, spill me, because I felt like it was a Groundhog Day every day. Married, 2 little ones, 6 and 4, working, just felt it was the same thing every single day, and I felt that my purpose was not being fulfilled. So as I prayed this prayer, time went by, and I found out I had breast cancer. We decided to go ahead with surgery, and from there we went to the hospital, and in the hospital everything was going perfect, so we thought. And then the doctor came in, just bouncing right in, and he said, "You're pregnant." So we went from the mountain to the valley in a heartbeat. And it was there that the spiritual warfare truly began. You can't do this. You can't afford this. You already have 2 kids. You're going to die. Who's going to take care of them? You don't have enough room for this in your home. Just every injection that you can imagine that a mother would have from Satan is what was injected. And then I hear the doctor say, well, we can terminate today and continue on with your surgery and everything will be fine. And when the doctor said that, the last injection that Satan had poisoned me with was, go ahead and terminate. No one will ever know you're pregnant. It was at that moment that I began to feel this overflowing of the Lord, who just embodied me and came out and just said a very affirming, humble, gentle no. Because I know that he knew that at that point I was so overwhelmed that he needed to speak for me. Then there was one doctor that said, well, why don't you go home? We think you're pretty early in your pregnancy, probably about 5 to 7 weeks. Take a week, take about 7 days, and just call us and let us know. And while I was praying out to him and crying, he specifically said, you will be okay and I will take care of her. Just like I'm sitting here right now. And I'm like, is that you, God? And he repeated it again. I'll take care of her. You will be okay. So I'm like, her? I'm having a girl. I'm like, no, God, I don't really want a girl or a boy. At this point in my life, you can take this child. This is your child. You can take it. That way I don't have to make a choice. You're making that choice for me. And then there was another moment where I'm just like, I'm going to call the abortion clinic. And I knew that God did not want me to abort. I knew that God had made this baby inside of me. I knew that God had given me a gift. And this really wasn't my choice. But the spiritual warfare, when you're at the lowest and Satan knows your buttons to push, and he sure knew mine. And so he pushed that button, and I called. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. Well, the sweet lady answered the phone, said, how may I help you? And I'm like, well, I think I'm wanting an abortion. And she said, okay. She said, well, we need to set up a time for you to come in and listen to the heartbeat. And that's all it took. From there, the conversation ended. We hung up, and I started crying again. Went home, went inside, grabbed my Bible, pressed my back up against our bedroom door with my Bible in my arms, slid down that wall, and cried. And God just told me, he said, you know what? I put you here for a purpose. And your purpose is to live for me. And there's a responsibility when it comes to being a Christian. And this time you took on the responsibility to finally follow me. You're being obedient. The spiritual warfare had ceased at that moment. The burden had been lifted, but it wasn't over. So at that time, we made the appointment to have surgery, and we were going to have to wait till I was 13 weeks pregnant. I literally had to give God everything. I had no control over the cancer at this time, how fast it would grow, how far my cancer could spread, if I would lose the baby, if I would lose my life. So those weeks were very revealing to me on how God provides. All our needs were met, every single need, due to being obedient. So yes, I prayed to be broken and spilled out. Will I ever pray that again? Probably not. But what God taught me are blessings that are unmeasurable. He taught me more about His glory and His grace and who He is. And I would say to people who are maybe struggling with a choice, it is hard, and Satan is very real, but God is more real. God is still the King of Kings. God is still the Lord of Lords, and He is the author of all of our stories. And with Him being the author, there's going to be a perfect ending. There's going to be an ending of love and hope and peace and joy. And if you don't mind, I would like to kind of introduce you to God's purpose and God's plan. So this is Kylan Claire, and she was born on February 17th. And all of the spiritual warfare, all of the tears, the joy, just, oh my gosh. It's so much more than what I could have ever imagined, because God knew that plan, God knew that purpose, and He knew before I knew that that little bitty baby that He had knitted in my womb had a great big purpose in this life for her generation. And I could have never have even imagined that, but that's what God does.